G'day Internet and welcome back to another video. So I was a Sega kid, not talking computers and stuff, that's a completely different subject, but when it comes to the games console that was plugged into the little television in my bedroom, it was either a Master System and then a Mega Drive. But by the time later consoles came out, I'd kind of vagued out, I guess, when it comes to gaming and stuff like that. I was in my early 20s and was more interested in getting drunken girls and things of that nature. So I kind of skipped a whole lot of really great consoles. But as I've gotten back into gaming, retro gaming over the last few years, I've collected up a few. I do, for instance, have an original Xbox with a fairly decent collection of games. But one thing that has always been missing is the Dreamcast. And as of a couple of weeks ago, I now have one, and I'm super excited to finally have one in my collection and learn all about it and play its games. But this one is a bit grubby and can certainly do with a bit of TLC, and there are a few things that we can do to these consoles, so let's check that out. So this is the well-loved Dreamcast, and as you can see, it's pretty grubby. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to absolutely strip this thing down and give all the plastic cases and components a good clean. But before we get to that, let's have a look at some of the maintenance parts we're going to use. The first thing I picked up is a Hyperkin HDMI cable, just to kind of make life a little easier plugging into my LCD here at home. We are going to replace the memory battery inside the machine. We might as well put a new battery into the VMU. And finally, we are going to replace the fan. So that's all the extra stuff we're going to do. But for now, let's start pulling the old girl apart. Now we have the main cases. They are now going to find a tub of soapy warm water and get a good scrub. And in the meantime, I will also disassemble the controller and give it a good tub as well. Right, so with everything now slowly drying in the kitchen on the rack, it's time to turn our attention to the memory battery. Now this is the controller where all the ports plug in. This is a board out of the machine, and as you can see, there is a battery attached to it. This is the battery that helps the Dreamcast remember the date and time. Now if you've ever played a Dreamcast and you keep getting prompted to enter the date and time every time it's turned on, it's because this guy here is dead. Now you've got a couple of options. You can just simply replace, you can buy these exactly the way they are. You desolder the 3 points, you put it in, but we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to replace it with this guy here, which is a coin cell battery holder. Basically that gets soldered in place, and then I've got a rechargeable coin cell that just simply drops in there. So let's start by desoldering the old one. Right, with that now free, it's time to drop the holder in its place. And we've all tested with a multimeter, it's now just a case of dropping our new rechargeable battery in. Ta-da! Done. And while we're in the mood for batteries, let's give the VMU a new one as well. With the base now dry, we can start putting it all back together, I guess. So before we put the fan back in, this here is the original fan. I think it's about a 25 mil or thereabouts. These are known to get very noisy and wear out, and they're not a common size either. So what we're going to do is we're going to swap it out for this 40 mil Noctua fan, which are known as what's recommended to me. They're nice and quiet, they're a good quality fan. But to fit a 40 mil where a 25 mil was, we're going to need an adapter. So available on Thingiverse, I'll put a link in the description, is this shroud adapter here. And this just goes in where the fan was. And then we take our fan, we make sure that we've got it blowing out like that. And it kind of just drops in at 45 degrees, and this hole here should line up. And you take one of the screws that came with the fan, and in theory, this should go straight in here. Yep, looks okay to me. And then we just simply plug it in. And that's our replacement fan in our Dreamcast. Now we can start putting the rest of it back together. Now, one downside of replacing that fan is it sticks up a lot higher than the original one. So what we actually need to do is replace this white latch here with the other part of the 3D printed kit, which goes in there. And as you can see, this one has a large cutout, which in theory should line up with the extra height of the fan. Last but not least, we can put it all back together. And there we go. My Dreamcast is now all clean and happy again. But a couple of gotchas. It turns out that of the Noctua fans, there is two different 40mm silent ones. There is this NF A4X10 FLX, and there's an A4X10, and that's it. The FLX is for the 12 volt one. This uses a 5 volt fan. Yep. So I've ordered one of those. You can probably hear that the original fan is actually back in it at the moment. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that the Hyperkin HDMI cable that I used is, look, it's completely functional. It doesn't do any upscaling or anything like that. And far as I'm aware, it doesn't work with non-VGA games either. But it does give at least a nicer picture on a modern LCD, and it's a lot neater than composite cables, which is what I was using before. And also I was able to order this directly from the Gamesman in Sydney and had it in like a day, so that made me happy. For now though, let's go play some games.
Welcome back to the stage of history. Peach versus Voldo. Battle 1, fight! Knockout!
So there we go. My Dreamcast is a lot happier now, and I've got a new console to play with, so I'm more than happy about that. So if you like this video, please click like and subscribe and all that kind of business down below, and I'll see you in the next one.